Lolo Enki TV.
The Law of One. Book 3, Session 64. The 26th of July, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you first tell me the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated with the exception of a transitory distortion lessening the free flow of vital energy. Questioner, can you tell me what the transitory distortion is? Ra, I am Ra. This is marginal information. Questioner, then we won't question on it. Could you explain the basic principles behind the ritual which we perform to initiate the contact and what I would call the basic white magical principles of protection? Ra, I am Ra. Due to your avenue of question, we perceive the appropriateness of inclusion of the cause of this instrument's transitory vital energy distortion. The cause is a bias towards the yearning for expression of devotion to the one Creator in group worship. This entity was yearning for this protection both consciously in that it responds to the accoutrements of this expression, the ritual, the colors and their meanings as given by the distortion system of what you call the church, the song of praise, and the combined prayers of thanksgiving and, most of all, that which may be seen to be most centrally magical, the intake of that food which is not of this dimension but has been transmuted into metaphysical nourishment in what this distortion of expression calls the Holy Communion. The subconscious reason, it being the stronger for this yearning, was the awareness that such expression is, when appreciated by an entity as the transmutation into the presence of the one Creator, a great protection of the entity as it moves in the path of service to others. The principle behind any ritual of the white magical nature is to so configure the stimuli which reach down into the trunk of mind that this arrangement causes the generation of disciplined and purified emotion or love, which then may be both protection and the key to the gateway to intelligent infinity. Questioner, can you tell me why the slight error made in the ritual starting this communication 2 sessions ago allowed the intrusion by an Orion-affiliated entity? Ra, I am Ra. This contact is narrow-band and its preconditions precise. The other self offering its service in the negative path also is possessed of the skill of the swordsman. You deal in this contact with, shall we say, forces of great intensity poured into a vessel as delicate as a snowflake and as crystalline. The smallest of lapses may disturb the regularity of this pattern of energies which forms the channel for these transmissions. We may note for your information that our pause was due to the necessity of being quite sure that the mind or body spirit complex of the instrument was safely in the proper light configuration or density before we dealt with the situation. Far better would it be to allow the shell to become unviable than to allow the mind or body spirit complex to be, shall we say, misplaced. Questioner, could you describe or tell me of rituals or techniques used by Ra in seeking in the direction of service? Ra, I am Ra. To speak of that which sixth density social memory complexes labor within in order to advance is at best misprision of plain communication, for much is lost in transmission of concept from density to density, and the discussion of sixth density is inevitably distorted greatly. However, we shall attempt to speak to your query, for it is an helpful one in that it allows us to express once again the total unity of creation. We seek the Creator upon a level of shared experience to which you are not privy, and rather than surrounding ourselves in light we have become light. Our understanding is that there is no other material except light. Our rituals, as you may call them, are an infinitely subtle continuation of the balancing processes which you are now beginning to experience. We seek now without polarity. Thus we do not invoke any power from without, for our search has become internalized as we become light, love and love-out light. These are the balances we seek, the balances between compassion and wisdom which more and more allow our understanding of experience to be informed that we may come closer to the unity with the one Creator which we so joyfully seek. Your rituals at your level of progress contain the concept of polarization, and this is most central at your particular space or time. We may answer further if you have specific queries. Questioner, would it be helpful if Ra were to describe the techniques that Ra used while Ra was third density to evolve in mind, body, and spirit? Ra, I am Ra. This query lies beyond the law of confusion. Questioner, what about fourth density experience of Ra? Would that also lie beyond the law of confusion? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Let us express a thought. Ra is not elite. To speak of our specific experiences to a group which honors us is to guide to the point of a specific advising. Our work was that of your people, of experiencing the catalyst of joys and sorrows. Our circumstances were somewhat more harmonious. Let it be said that any entity or group may create the most splendid harmony in any outer atmosphere. Ra's experiences are no more than your own. Yours is the dance at this space or time in third density harvest. Questioner, the question was brought up recently having to do with possible records left near, in, or under the Great Pyramid at Giza. I have no idea whether this would be of benefit. I will just ask if there is any benefit in investigating in this area. Ra, I am Ra. We apologize for seeming to be so shy of information. However, any words upon this particular subject create the possibility of infringement upon free will. Questioner, in a previous session you mentioned the gateway of magic for the adept occurring in 18-day cycles. Could you expand on that information please? Ra, I am Ra. The mind or body spirit complex is born under a series of influences, both lunar, planetary, cosmic, and in some cases, karmic. The moment of the birthing into this illusion begins the cycles we have mentioned. The spiritual or adept cycle is an 18-day cycle and operates with the qualities of the sine wave. Thus there are a few excellent days on the positive side of the curve, that being the first 9 days of the cycle, precisely the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th, when workings are most appropriately undertaken, given that the entity is still without total conscious control of its mind or body spirit distortion or reality. The most interesting portion of this information, like that of each cycle, is the noting of the critical point wherein passing from the 9th to the 10th and from the 18th to the 1st days the adept will experience some difficulty, especially when there is a transition occurring in another cycle at the same time. At the nadir of each cycle the adept will be at its least powerful but will not be open to difficulties in nearly the degree that it experiences at critical times. Questioner, then to find the cycles we would take the instant of birth and the emerging of the infant from the mother into this density and start the cycle at that instant and continue it through the life. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is mostly correct. It is not necessary to identify the instant of birthing. The diurnal cycle upon which this event occurs is satisfactory for all but the most fine workings. Questioner, am I correct in assuming that whatever magic the adept would perform at this time would be more successful or, shall we say, more to his design than that performed at less opportune times in the cycle? Ra, I am Ra. This cycle is an helpful tool to the adept, but as we said, as the adept becomes more balanced the workings design will be dependent less and less upon these cycles of opportunity and more even in their efficacy. Questioner, I have no ability to judge at what point the level of abilities of the adept would be reached to be independent of this cyclical action. Can you give me an indication of what level of adeptness that would be necessary in order to be so independent? Ra, I am Ra. We are fettered from speaking specifically due to this group's work, for to speak would seem to be to judge. However, we may say that you may consider this cycle in the same light as the so-called astrological balances within your group, that is, they are interesting but not critical. Questioner, thank you. I read that recent research has indicated that the normal sleep cycle for entities on this planet occurs 1 hour later each diurnal period, so that we have a 25-hour cycle instead of a 24-hour cycle. Is this correct, and if so, why is this? Ra, I am Ra. This is in some cases correct. The planetary influences from which those of Mars experience memory have some effect upon these third-density physical bodily complexes. This race has given its genetic material to many bodies upon your plane. Questioner: thank you. Ra mentioned the ones, name, and name, in a previous session. These are members of what we call our medical profession. What is the value of modern medical techniques in alleviating bodily distortions with respect to the purpose for these distortions and what we might call karma? Ra: I am Ra. This query is convoluted. However, we shall make some observations in lieu of attempting one coherent answer, for that which is allopathic among your healing practices is somewhat two-sided. Firstly, you must see the possibility or probability that each and every allopathic healer is in fact an healer. Within your cultural nexus, this training is considered the appropriate means of perfecting the healing ability. In the most basic sense, any allopathic healer may be seen to, perhaps, be one whose desire is service to others in alleviation of bodily complex and mental or emotional complex distortions, so that the entity to be healed may experience further catalyst over a longer period of what you call the life. This is a great service to others when appropriate, due to the accumulation of distortions toward wisdom and love which can be created through the use of the space or time continuum of your illusion. In observing the allopathic concept of the body complex as a machine, we may note the symptomology of a societal complex seemingly dedicated to the most intransigent desire for the distortions of distraction, anonymity, and sleep. This is the result rather than the cause of societal thinking upon your plane. In turn, this mechanical concept of the body complex has created the continuing proliferation of distortions towards what you would call ill health due to the strong chemicals used to control and hide bodily distortions. There is a realization among many of your peoples that there are more efficacious systems of healing, not excluding the allopathic but also including the many other avenues of healing. Questioner: let us assume that a bodily distortion occurs within a particular entity who then has a choice of seeking allopathic aid or experiencing the catalyst of the distortion and not seeking correction of the distortion. Can you comment on the two possibilities for this entity and his analysis of each path? Ra: I am Ra. If the entity is polarized towards service to others, analysis properly proceeds along the lines of consideration of which path offers the most opportunity for service to others. For the negatively polarized entity, the antithesis is the case. For the unpolarized entity, the considerations are random and most likely in the direction of the distortion towards comfort. Questioner: I understand. Name: brought a four-toed Bigfoot cast by here the other day. Could you tell me which form of Bigfoot that cast was? Ra: I am Ra. We can. Questioner: I know that it is totally unimportant, but as a service to name, I thought that I should ask that. Ra: I am Ra. This entity was one of a small group of thought forms. Questioner: he also asked, I know this is also unimportant, why there were no Bigfoot remains found after the entities have died on our surface. Could you also answer this? I know this is of no importance, but as a service to him I ask it. Ra: I am Ra. You may suggest that exploration of the caves which underlie some of the western coastal mountain regions of your continent will one day offer such remains. They will not be generally understood if this culture survives in its present form long enough in your time measurement for this probability or possibility vortex to occur. There is enough energy for one more full query at this time. Questioner: in the healing exercises, when you say examine the sensations of the body, do you mean those sensations available to the body via the five senses or in relation to the natural functions of the body such as touching, loving, sexual sharing, and company, or are you speaking of something else altogether? Ra: I am Ra. The questioner may perceive its body complex at this moment. It is experiencing sensations. Most of these sensations, or in this case, nearly all of them, are transient and without interest. However, the body is the creature of the mind. Certain sensations carry importance due to the charge or power which is felt by the mind upon the experience of this sensation. For instance, at this space-time nexus one sensation is carrying a powerful charge and may be examined. This is the sensation of what you call the distortion towards discomfort due to the cramped position of the body complex during this working. In balancing you would then explore this sensation. Why is this sensation powerful? Because it was chosen in order that the entity might be of service to others in energizing this contact. Each sensation that leaves the aftertaste of meaning upon the mind, that leaves the taste within the memory shall be examined. These are the sensations of which we speak. May we answer any brief queries before we leave this instrument? Questioner, is there anything that we could do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Ra, I am Ra. Continue to consider the alignments. You are conscientious and aware of the means of caring for the instrument in its present distortions having to do with the wrists and hands. As always, love is the greatest protection. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, in the glorious love and joyful light of the infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.